Why is it so hard to schedule time for ourselves? We are so obligated to schedule time with others, meetings, Zoom calls, appointments, all this stuff until it comes to us. Scheduling private, uninterrupted time with you know who. You. That's what we want to get to. And it is so powerful, yet we don't do it. And I have not done it for such a long time until just recently when I went on a 2 to 4 day personal retreat. It was supposed to be 2 days, it ended up being 4 days, and I'm so thankful I took it. But on that personal retreat, I want to talk about the first thing I did, which was go through an epic Wheel of Life template. Now this template will take you 2 hours. You have to budget this time. But on the flip side of these 2 hours, you should be able to say something like this. I know exactly where I am, I know how I got here, and I know where I would like to go. I'm reading what I wrote, and I hope you have a similar result. So let's get into it. And that template is a free download. You can see it in the description below for you right now. It works perfectly in the app Obsidian. I custom designed it to be the perfect Wheel of Life for an Epic Life Audit. It worked wonders for me. That's why I'm excited to share it with you. It is free. You can just download it immediately, and then you can actually walk through the rest of these exercises with me while going through the template. Or you can just watch the video first and then go through the template. And you only need 2 things to do an epic Wheel of Life audit. You need a private place and a thinking space. So make sure you have a private place. And then for me, my thinking space will be Obsidian, the note-making app, and you'll find that this template works perfectly in Obsidian. But first, what is the Wheel of Life? It's a self-assessment tool. It's a way to know ourselves. So what you do is you draw a little circle, and then there are little pies where you look at how you're doing in health and wealth and happiness and these different categories. You can slice them up any way you want. And that's the thing about the Wheel of Life. There's no one standard way. And what you'll find in the epic template that I've provided is that I've taken the wheel and just unrolled it. So it's a bulleted list. And why this is so important is because I've done Wheel of Lives from over a decade ago, and I don't have those copies handy because I did them on paper somewhere and they didn't have any journaling to that. What we have here is an intentional format that will allow you to pull out your thoughts and visibly see them. And then we'll see that how we can roll up and synthesize and more deeply understand all that to get a really great perspective on where we are in life and where we'd like to go. So without further ado, let's hop into the template. Okay, now we're in. Now we're looking at the beautiful, epic Wheel of Life audit template. And what you can see is a cool theme. If you like this theme, don't worry, we'll have a video. Eventually the link will be up here and in the description below. But let's get into actually how to prepare for going through this experience, because there is just a little bit of preparation we want to do. So again, what will you need? A private place and a thinking space. This is our thinking space, but you need to create your private place. What is that going to be? So you'll want to make sure you can budget 2 to 3 hours of private, uninterrupted time. It's really important. If you're going to be distracted, this isn't going to work for you. How can you prepare beforehand? I would say before you start this, feel free to just dive right into it. I found it was helpful to kind of create some space in the days leading up. Just start thinking loosely about how life is going for you, where you are, just generally speaking, what's gone well, and maybe where would you like to go? The results that you'll say afterwards is the thing that I said. I hope you get the same result. I know exactly where I am. I know how I got here. I know where I'd like to go. And what you'll feel is that you'll be deeply knowing whatever it is you care about and how you want to move forward to have more of that in your life. So here's how we're going to go through it. We're not going to start from the top down. All this stuff is going to be from the bottom up. So there are no scores to begin with. We're going to start with a process called free writing. Some of you have heard of it. Or if you don't want to write, technology allows us to actually freely talk and dictate and see the words that we're speaking. So we can really embody what we're saying, speak from the heart, and see the words so we can work with the words and develop and roll up these words and paragraphs into deeper layers of understanding. And that's where a lot of this magic happens. Now, if you don't have 2 to 3 hours, that's fine. What you can do is you can break this up. Now, to let you know, I did all this in 2 hours, but let's imagine you don't even have that and you just want to break it up into 30-minute chunks. You can do that. Each 30-minute chunk will get you through one of the 3 major sections of the Wheel of Life review. So if you only have 30 to 45 minutes, you'll be perfectly fine. All you need to do is just break up this whole activity into 3 different time blocks, and then there you go. Something really important to note, if you are opening up my template and you've thrown it into Obsidian, it's going to have every header and bullet expanded, unfolded, twirled open, and we want everything to start out collapsed. So the way that you accomplish this is on a Mac, you hit Command P, on Windows Control P, and all I'm going to type is fold all, and then we have it, fold all headings and lists. So I'm going to click that button, and then you'll have this beautifully presented format, and you'll be able to twirl open what you need and work as you go. So that's the recommended way. Let's keep going. So we've gone over the instructions, and you can break this up into 3 time blocks as we've stated. So now we're going to untwirl each of these sections. So the first is the top section. After 2 hours, your final reflections go here. So we're not going to go here yet, and we'll add a little score. So we'll have some sort of number, like 5.5. Put that there at the end, but we're not starting at the end. So what we'll want to do is twirl down lived experience, or relationships, or work. These are the 3 parts of the Wheel of Life review. So choose the one that resonates the most with you. We're just going to go ahead and start in lived experience. So let me twirl that down, and you'll see that within lived experience, we have recreation, environment, and body. And then if we twirl down recreation, we see that there are 5, in this case, 5 subsections: hobbies, travel, leisure, consuming, and experiences. Like I said, this is an epic Wheel of Life audit. This covers everything. By the end of this, you'll know all aspects of your life. You won't have any like, hey, what did I miss? What areas did I miss? You won't have that. You'll have confidence that you've covered all those aspects of life. So that's recreation. We have environment. Environment's the physical environment, the sensory experience. And then what about our body? Sleep, nutrition, general movement, and exercise. So these are the things that we want to be looking at when it comes to lived experience, this first section. For this video, we just don't have the time to walk through everything together, but I wanted to show you how I would go through a few of these initial segments. So this is all just in the lived experience section. There are 3 sections: relationships and work. I won't twirl those down just yet because I want to show you how I would go through this myself using hobbies and travel as the example. So what you do is just click on hobbies and then hit enter to create a new bullet, and then indent by tab. Now we can start free writing here. And this is how you should approach it, really freely. Punctuation doesn't matter. Grammar doesn't matter. What matters is that you're getting it all out. You're figuring out, what are my hobbies? What do they look like? What don't they look like? And answering all the things in between. So here's something that I can share, because this one's not so personal. I don't have any hobbies right now. This is me answering truthfully during my personal retreat. Exercise is where my extra time seems to go. Briefly, in this last quarter, I was playing The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And while that felt great, I'm done with video games again, at least for now. For those that don't know, I started playing video games again after over a decade break. And it was pretty cool for a couple months, but I'm done with that. That was a nice hobby, but I don't need that anymore. I just kind of want to go back to other things, although I learned a lot from Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. That was amazing. So this is all you do, though. You just create a little bullet like this. Now, if you have another talking point, you just go ahead, you enter, create a new bullet, and then put whatever's on your mind there. So you might do more free writing, or what I really like to do, and you can do this simply, like on a Mac, I'm going to hit F5, which is this little audio button, and your button might be in a different spot depending if you're on Windows or a different device, but you can just dictate. You can do this on your phone. You can walk around and say whatever's on your mind for any of these subsections. So this is what I did on my personal retreat. I was actually walking around with my laptop, hit the dictate button, and then I was walking around, pacing around the room, and I was just answering all of these. That's how I was able to get through it in just 2 hours. So something I ended up speaking out loud was this bullet. The other hobby that doesn't really count would be listening to audiobooks. It's clear to me that I should have some sort of hobby like dancing or something else that is physical, but not just basic weight training or calisthenic type of exercise. So this is me just doing a quick rundown of hobbies. And I think I had a couple other bullets, but then at the end of the day, I'm just going to quickly say currently I'm going to rate myself as a 4. Ideal, it's not like I must have great hobbies, so ideal is just a 6. Whatever you feel like, I'm just going to use a scale from 1 to 10. We just want to quickly answer these. You don't have to use numbers. You could say the current is not much, ideal having something, you could say that. But for now, I'll just keep it with numbers and go 4 to 6. Now this is crucial, and there'll be another video on the roll-up method, or basically a pure emergence method of making sense of things, what we call like rolling up information. So what I'm going to do now is just collapse this and roll up all that text into just these scores so I can just see the highlight. And then I'm going to roll down and get into travel. So I'll do the same thing, enter, indent, and then I'll start free writing or free talking right here. And boom, this was something that was part of my reflection. I'm happy with my amount of travel recently, but I'm less happy that some of the travel has forced me to become behind on things like the WoW workshop, one of our private behind the scenes workshops, all the prep, and especially my book proposal. So there's like a double-edged sword. So when I rated myself here, and this typically doesn't seem to happen, but I gave my current rating an 8 for travel, but I actually want my ideal to be a tick down, a 7, because I think I'm traveling too much and it's kind of caused more stress for all my other things that I want to do. So I just gave that a score, and then I collapsed that. And then we go through everything. So let's go ahead and imagine we gave these other subsections score. So I'm thinking about my leisure time. What do I do when I'm just relaxing? What does that look like? It might be similar to hobbies, but it is a little bit different. What are you doing to relax, to unwind when you're not really doing anything? And then what about your consuming habits? How are you engaging with content? What does that look like? What do you like about it? What would you like to do differently? So these are the questions that we're asking, or variations of these questions for each of the subsections. And then finally, experiences. When it comes to recreation, this big section, what experiences am I having that I haven't already talked about? What are those experiences? What form are they taking? What do I want more? What type of experiences do I want more of? So for all these subsections, you'll have a score, and then just kind of feel it out. And overall, this will allow you to roll it up into a final score. So I might say after all this that my current is a 5, and I'd like to get it to a 6, or maybe even a 7. Now, along with this final roll up, I'm going to go here, and after finishing the subsections below, I'm going to give an overall reasoning for my score. So I'm rolling up, I'm synthesizing, I'm making sense of all of my free writing and all my free talking into the final summary. And I'm going to write that here. So my reasoning for this overall score is here. And that's for recreation. So then you repeat that process for environment, for body, and then once you're done with those subsections and sections, it rolls up to give you a score for lived experience. And again, it's just more of a feeling. You don't have to be completely accurate with your math. So for my lived experience, I think my overall score ended up being like a 6.5, which is not terribly high. It's not terribly low. But I had ideas of what I wanted to do more of, ideas of what I wanted to do less of, and overall I felt really confident in how I wanted to proceed with living my life. Okay, now you know the workflow. We twirl down a section like recreation, and then we answer all the subsections like hobbies and travel. And then we roll up with scores, and then we roll up with an overall score and takeaway, and then we roll up even further to finish the lived experience section. Before we do that though, I now want to walk you through all of the subsections with some priming questions. After you have those questions and after you see all the subsections, you'll have everything you need to do the epic Wheel of Life review on your own. So let's get to it. After recreation, we're going to twirl down environment. So think about your lived experience. So much of it is about the environment that surrounds us. It's so much of our experience. So in this one, we want to review how we're feeling about our physical environment. Like, think about where you are right now watching this. Is that a good place? Is it uncomfortable? Is it too comfortable? Just think about how you like that environment. What about your work environment? What about any other third or fourth places that you spend a lot of time in? How are all these environments shaping you? How is your town or city shaping you? Think about all of that, and that's going to go into your physical environment. So you're going to reflect on that here, do your free writing, or if you can, I really prefer free talking for this exercise. So hit that dictate button, and when you do it this way, as we'll learn in a different video on the roll-up method, you're able to do it in chunks. So it's not like some dictation that you do for 15 minutes and you're like, I never want to look at that thing again because I got 1,000 words I have to run through. When you do it in chunks like this, it's all usable, it's all clear, and it all makes sense. So you just go bit by bit, free talk for about 50 words to 200 words, and then go on to the next bullet. So for example, it might look about this long, and then that's 50 words, and then go on to the next bullet and say your next point, and so on and so forth. So that's the physical environment. But part of this lived experience of our environment is the sensory experience. So think even further. How are my senses? Like, what am I reacting to? Are you in a loud environment? Is it a quiet environment? Is it safe? Is it full of interruptions? Think about your sensory experience that you're currently going through day in and day out. What do you like about it? What could make it better? So give yourself a current score. And remember, these current scores are not your aspirational scores. This is where you think, like, how am I currently in alignment with where I think is ideal for me? And then when you get to that ideal score, think about what that would feel like. So your current score is about alignment and not outcome. So you can already be at a perfect current score and it might match your ideal score. That doesn't mean you're exactly where you want to be in the end game of your life. You're feeling alignment. You're in a good place. You're in a good environment. And that goes for all of these sections and subsections. So hey, moving on from environment, let's pretend that we went through this exercise. We threw in all the text that we want to throw in, and then we rolled up those scores. Then we're going to give ourselves the full takeaway where we made sense of all those bullets into one paragraph. Then we'll give ourselves a score here, and then we can roll up and collapse environment. We can roll up and collapse recreation. Let's pretend environment was like a 5.5, and then we want it to be a 6. Let's go over and twirl down body. So here we want to think about sleep. This one's pretty straightforward. How am I sleeping? Could my sleep be better? Am I happy with the amount of sleep, the quality of sleep? Then nutrition. How is my diet? Am I eating at McDonald's every day? How's that working out for me? For those that know the documentary Super Size Me, Morgan Spurlock actually just passed away at the age of 53, I believe. And part of that was probably not related to McDonald's, but maybe part of it was from that experience. Who knows? Point being, we should be mindful of our nutrition. Then we have movement. How am I moving around generally speaking? And movement is a different section than exercise. Why is that? Because exercise is more intentional, it's more active. Movement, though, can just be how am I having healthy habits throughout the day. That distinction is important for many of us working out in the world, and it's important to have. Just because you exercise for 30 minutes or 20 minutes even, at one point of the day, if the rest of your day you're stuck in a chair and you're not moving at all, that's something that we want to bring attention towards. That's why we have that separate bullet for you to work through. So let's pretend you work through all those. Then you control that one up. Maybe you gave it a final score and you said, well, actually the body could be a lot better there. It's a 4. I want to make it a 7. So based on all of these that you've twirled from the bottom up, rolling up all this knowledge, layering in your understanding as you go, for the lived experience section, for this category, you can give it your score. And maybe I say it's a 6. Again, it's just kind of what I think my current score is. And then that's going to roll up again to this overall assessment at the top. Now, before we get to that overall assessment, that's the final end of the rainbow. So we're not there yet. Now I can actually collapse lived experience. So it's just a single line. All that work is now collapsed into a single line. Let's quickly go through relationships and work. I just want to give you a few priming questions so that you can go through this. You can follow along with me, kind of use me to kind of prime your responses, or just go through it immediately. And then afterwards, when you have the time, you can go through the whole Epic Wheel of Life review on your own terms. All right, so first, let's start with the soul. The soul, what is this soul? Let's not go into definitions right now, but let's answer these 2 subsections. What do you feel? How do you feel you're doing with your life purpose? If any of you have read the book The Alchemist, that's called the personal legend. What is this thing that you're just drawn to that is your personal legend, that your heart is calling you towards? Maybe this is just general personal discovery. Whatever it is, go ahead, hit enter, hit indent, and start free writing or free talking. Same thing, spirituality, whatever that means to you, there should be some component of it in your life. And if you say that there shouldn't be a component in your life, just give it a low score. And then you'll have that as a data point. Maybe 5 years later, you feel like maybe something's missing. Maybe there's something you can add from spirituality. I don't want to preach or tell you what to do. It's just something that we should consider. It's an element of life. However we engage with it is important to note. So you do your work there. You can then roll those up. And then we're done with soul. We can give soul a score. Let's say, hey, we're at a 6 there, but we want it to be more of a 7. If I know for sure I'm at the end of life, I'm going to say, I really need to bump this thing up. I need to get my affairs in order. Just a consideration. Let's go into partnership. That's going to mean something different for all of us. But what I want to stress here is that there's some sort of intimacy or closeness. How are we doing in our life with intimacy and with closeness? So you could have a lifelong partner, but you might not be intimate or close at all. Or you might not have that partner, but you might feel in your relationships in your life, you are very intimate and close with these individuals. You're able to be vulnerable. So whatever that means for you. Now, there is another section on romance. Depending on where you are and what resonates with you, you'll just want to know where you're at. The score is just reflective of that. It's auditing where you are in life and how that might affect how you feel and where you might want to go. And then last, let's not forget fun and lightness. Romance can be pretty serious and intense sometimes, but where's the fun and the lightness when it comes to our relationships? Want to make sure that we have a category that we can reflect on, so that's why that's there. Now, let's pretend we're done with partnership. Now we have family and friends, so let's twirl down family. 2 categories I want to look at. One is family connection. How are we feeling connected with whatever we call family? Now, for most of us, that will actually be blood family, but it doesn't have to be. It can be whoever we think of as family. And how is that family health? Now, what I mean by health is kind of twofold. One is, how is the actual health, like the physical health of everyone, but how is the emotional health? These are about relationships. So what can we do with relationships to strengthen that health? So maybe there hasn't been a family reunion in a while, or maybe you weren't at the last 3, like myself. Well, I'll be going tomorrow to celebrate an annual family reunion with my extended family. So I definitely have put some emphasis on this and want to take advantage of that. And let's not forget friends. Now, the friends category, you can see that as you live longer and longer in life, you might find the need to partition out how you think of friends. So for me, and what I think will resonate with a lot of different people in different ranges of life, is that you have close friends, you have old friends who sometimes are close but they're still important. You still want to make space with them and think about how you're maintaining or not maintaining relationships there. Because remember, this whole category is about relationships. So then with friends, we also have community and social connections. So some social connections might be work related. If you go into the office, those are social connections. Or the broader community might be your neighbors or just other social groups you're a part of. And then there's this 4th one that will be interesting to some of you here. Friends that are protomoi. So protomoi is a Greek word that meant first among equals. So it's just a nice way to say all friends matter, all people matter, but there are certain friends that you might, for whatever reason, wherever you are in life, they're the protomoi. They're kind of like the first among equals. So we don't have to say who they are exactly. They will always change. But how are you doing with those relationships? Those friends that you cherish so much that you want to really make sure that they have a special space. They might not always be close friends, and that's why we have a separate space for that. They might not always be old friends. That's why we have this 4th space where we can analyze all of that. Congratulations. If you've made it this far, you have finished at least the priming and prompting for the relationships section. So let's imagine we score all these, and at the end of the day, we say, I've been working really hard personally, and that's been at the sacrifice of my relationships. So maybe my relationships are a 5. Now we're going to continue to roll up all this information and collapse that to a single line. Lived experience, 6. Relationships, 5. We have one more big section to go through, and that is work. So with work, we have 3 subsections, and that's going to be work itself, finances, and then in this Epic Wheel of Life review, we're throwing in the mind here. The mind kind of goes everywhere, so we're just throwing in the mind at the very end. It's the last thing what we're going to look at. So if I twirl down work, there are 4 subsections here. First with work is your career or business health and trajectory. So let's look at those together. How are you doing there? How do you feel about your career health? How about its trajectory? What can you do to improve it? What does it look like? How can you strengthen it and be happier about it? And the next one, we cover a term called protomoi relationships. So what's interesting is in relationships, in friends, we have friends that are protomoi. But this category, first among equals, is so important. It also flavors work relationships. So you might have those people in work that are first among equals. But let's analyze them separately because they're not always friends. They're not always in that same ballpark. And so I do find that this distinction is helpful for me to recognize that there are certain relationships that I do want to cultivate and nurture in my career, but I don't necessarily want to think of those relationships as friends. We should be okay with that. We should be comfortable with that. We should create a space so we can think about that differently. So that's what we're doing here. And then the third one, how is my creation or production? Like, how am I creating things, doing things in work that have actual outputs that people can see and measure? How is that looking? If you're a content creator, that's maybe creating a new video. If you're in the office and you're working on spreadsheets, that might just be completing a spreadsheet or updating a spreadsheet, and could be a million different things. But how are you feeling in your creation process or in your production process? That's what we look at there. Productivity comes into place there. And then last, sense of contribution. We can be really productive. We can know that we are targeting the right people in our career. We can have a good health and trajectory. But how do we feel about our sense of contribution? Is this filling us up? Extremely important that we understand how we can improve this score in whatever our work situation looks like. All right, let's pretend we got through that. 2 more to go. So finances. Of course, we have to cover finances. We can't pretend that finances are not part of an overall holistic wheel of life experience. So with finances, we're going to look at net worth. Whatever your net worth is, however you're going to calculate it, put something down on paper, because now you have something to compare future you towards. And if you've done it before, you can compare current you to past you. And this can give you a sense of where you are and can allow you something really valuable, clarity. And you can do stuff with clarity. But if you don't have that clarity, what are you going to do? So that's what we're doing with net worth. And then tied into work is cash flow. What does your monthly cash flow look like? Are you happy with that? Most people aren't always happy. They want to improve these things. Well, what does it look like to improve? What's realistic? What's the time frame for that type of improvement? And then third, what's your sense of control and confidence in your finances? So you'll have a net worth, you'll have some cash flow coming in, whatever that looks like, but how much control or confidence do you have in where you are and where you would like to go? And then last, the mind, almost saving the best for last, depending on who you are. How's my sense of learning? Do I feel like I'm learning new things? Then, the second category, how's my sense of sense making? So we can be exposed to a lot of stuff. We can be feeding our curiosity. But if we take it a little bit further, then that's when it becomes the sense making. So how am I making sense of my world? Am I spending extra time reflecting on conversations I've had, or trying to connect ideas to other ideas? Or how am I, growing in knowledge and hopefully wisdom? That's what we're trying to understand here. And that does tie into, but it's slightly different than a sense of personal growth. Do I feel like I'm growing as a person, as a human being? Where's my sense of that like? I can tell you when I'm buried in my work and I'm just churning out the next thing, I might be learning, I might be sense making, but I might not necessarily feel that I'm tied into a sense of personal growth. So there you have it. Those are all the prompting questions. So based on all these, let's give ourselves a work score. And, I probably score quite high there these days. Too high. So let's give work a score of 8. So now I twirled that up. I rolled up all of this. This is a method of starting from the bottom and rolling up. Every time that we roll up information, we're deepening and layering our understanding, and it's giving us more confidence where we are and where we would like to go. So based on all these, I'm going to type out my final reflections here. As I'm articulating what really stood out to me, what you want to do here is give your reasoning for your overall score. What really stood out to you out of all this? And you'll usually feel it multiple times as you're going through this. You might unexpectedly be talking about all sorts of things that you didn't even know. That's something that we'll cover in the hidden takeaways, the stuff that this bubbles up, that this reflection bubbles up. But at the end of the day, you'll put in your final reflections here and you'll give yourself the overall score. So I think my overall score was, is it like a 5.5 or a 6.5, which feels fairly low, but I'm about to say why it was the most beautiful thing ever. And if you're following along with me, this is a great time to hit pause, fill in your answers now, and then when you're ready, hit play again. Okay, wow, if you've gone through all this walkthrough so far, I'm glad you're still here because there are some really important takeaways, and I want to share with you a sneak peek into some of my final reasonings for my overall score. So now, me personally, my score after this 2-hour, really intense assessment was 5.5. And you might think, oh, I should be upset with that or disappointed. Quite the opposite. So I actually wanted to share with you my exact takeaways. So 2 hours later, you can put in your final reflections, and let me just twirl down. What you see on screen is what I wrote, with a little bit redacted, but let me just read this out loud. It's funny, as I look at the score, 5.5, which kind of seems alarming, I'm leaving this entire exercise feeling okay with myself and my current trajectory. And this is because the exercise helped me gain even more clarity by articulating answers for each of these unique lenses. While redacted, the exercise has given me relief in its clear conclusions. And that leaves me feeling good, even understanding that my current score is 5.5. And then I go further in a different bullet, because that was a good chunk, and now this is a different topic. If I never do another Wheel of Life again, and you can tell it's not capitalized, so I was dictating this, that's fine, because I've dictated and written over 4,600 words. It'll all be okay, because this single exercise has helped propel me to the next phase of my life's quest. So you could tell I'm kind of poetic there. I'm feeling pretty pumped with a 5.5 score. Like, how wild is that? So I'm going to share a next action and takeaway from this too, because that's what you'll want to get to. But before we even get there, there's a hidden little header at the very bottom of this template. And I want to share that with you now because it's really important as you look at your score and make sense of it. Be kind to yourself. So if you click this call out, be kind to yourself. And the best way you can do that is by being honest. That's the best way you can be kind to yourself, because the hidden benefit isn't some stupid score, some number. It's the hidden emotions and the deeper understandings that this exercise will bubble up out of you. It's the clarity and confidence that the exercise creates. So this is truly one of those times where it's not the destination, it's the journey. And if you go through this journey, you'll be so happy with the destination, even if you score 5.5 or less. So again, it's not about a number, it's not about the score, it's about being kind to yourself by being honest with yourself. Then you'll have a bad score and you'll feel great about it. Now, final thing, you have a great score, you did all this work. I'm going to ask you to at least come up with a few different actions and takeaways. So I'll give you one example that I can share. I'm going to twirl this one down. This is a real next action and takeaway that I came up with after my big personal retreat. There are about 8 personal ones, but this is definitely one that I can share that's not too personal. It's as simple as this. I'm giving myself an instructive, live a lifestyle with movement and vitality. Significantly change my current lifestyle from what I feel is a sedentary one back to one with movement and vitality. So I'm giving myself a very high level instructive. Now, since this has happened about 3-4 weeks ago, I've been spending more time on the floor, moving around. I've been doing like primal crawls. I've been doing all sorts of really fun things, getting back in touch with my body, understanding how to make it work the way it naturally wants to work. It doesn't want to sit in this chair all day. If I'm on the ground, I'm naturally working my fascia, the connective tissue of the body. I'm naturally getting rid of aches and pains, becoming more mobile, more resistant and anti-fragile to injuries as I age. All these things are happening just by one simple thing, spending a little bit of time on the floor, on the ground. And that's just but one area where I'm trying to live more of a lifestyle with movement and vitality. So with your next actions and your takeaways, try to make it an instructive. That's basically an instruction to your current self. Live a lifestyle with movement and vitality. And then a little bit of detail to follow, one sentence afterwards, and that's all you need. So we're rolling up waves and waves of information coming from parts of us that we didn't even know that were there. They've just been bubbling up. And we've been synthesizing and distilling and encapsulating them into takeaways that are actionable and that we can practice immediately. And there you have it, the epic, and this was epic, Wheel of Life review. Just so you know, there are 32 subsections in this review. That's as many as the flavors at Baskin Robbins. 32 subsections. And at the end of this, you should have such clarity and confidence of where you are in life and where you would like to go. Now, as a reminder, the template is in the description below. And this recording is not going away. You can revisit this recording at any time along with that template, and you can walk through this Wheel of Life review at your own pace. So keep that in mind. This can be a one and done. You can do it one time and get so much benefit out of it, especially that first time. But it's just equally as powerful to come back to it 6 months later, 12 months later. So just remember, you can revisit this recording at any time. I really encourage you to, and consider how you can engage in the comments. Let everybody know how you're doing, because you might just inspire somebody else to keep their Wheel of Life review rolling. And until next time, stay connected.